every week with the links to the videos that I am recording right now. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna make a triangle or a rectangle, and I'm gonna make it a perfect square. To make things perfect square, we hold down keys on the keyboard. If you hold on, I'm gonna click and drag with the shift key down, click and drag. Notice how it's a perfect square. If you do not hold the shift key down, let your finger up off the shift key. Look, not perfect square. Hold your other finger, shift key, perfect square. Shift key. Okay, now we're going to transform. Now there's a whole bunch of ways to transform an object inside of Illustrator. We're going to want to make one that's kind of, we want a rectangle that's kind of on an angle like that. That's not perfect triangle, but get the idea. We want those different than that. We want it to be on an angle like that. So the tools for transforming, the ones I use a lot, I like to use the distort tool, and I like to use the perspective tool sometimes. But the one we're going to use for this is the shear. The term is shear, and the shear can be used to adjust that. The transform tools are actually in the toolbar here, and if I click on them, it's in the toolbar here. If I click on them and I put my cursor, notice I put my cursor kind of over top of the middle one here. Again, it's this tool right here, free transform tool. This is kind of shearing right here. If I click and hold my mouse down and start dragging, you'll notice it starts doing that. But then I'm going to hold the shift key down. Oh no, that didn't work. The shift key's not working. Hold on. I wanted a perfect angle. Oh, that's not very good, is it? Okay, maybe I'm on the wrong tool here. Hold on, let me undo that for a moment. I'm going to undo that. Let me see if this one... Oh, here's the shear tool. I'm sorry. Let's use the shear tool, not this one. This one's like a free transform. I'm sorry, the one that's right above it. Right above it. This one's a scale tool, but there's one called the shear tool. It's right underneath there. I'm sorry. Let's go back to this tool. So undo it if you were using that one. And let's use the shear tool. It's this one right here. It's this underneath the scale tool. And then we want to drag it like this, but we want to... Where is it? There used to be a way that they could do it on an angle and get 45-degree angle. It doesn't seem to be working. Maybe if I hold down the... Whatever. Let's just do it like that. Yeah?
As we said, I believe if you left click and then go down to...
I thought there was a way to do it on an angle.
If you go down to
That
shear.
one. Then you could do it on a 45-degree angle. Okay, let's undo again. We found a better way. Let's undo again. We found a better way. Because it's important when you're making geometric that things are perfect, right? And you have a 45-degree, I want to shear it at a 45-degree angle. So we looked at the free one, right? Free one, then we looked at this one. Another way to do it, again, it's still selected, is underneath Object, Transform, Shear here. Shear? Shear. Shear. Object, Transform, Shear. And then you can choose the angle here. We want to do it 45-degree angle. And then if you hit preview, it'll show you what it looks like. Do you see that? Again, shear 45-degree. And I'm going to hit OK. I'm sorry. That's better. Again, where was that located? Object, transform, shear, and then it was 45. Ooh, I don't want to do it twice. Okay, we're going to duplicate this and flip it and then line it up. To duplicate this, we're going to use the black arrow, or yeah, we can do that, and we could duplicate it. To duplicate it, we can use the direct selection tool. I'm going to hold down the Option, click and drag, and I'm going to line it up like that, so they're next to each other. Option, click and drag. Then I want to flip it. To flip it, I'm going to use Object, Transform, Reflect. So Option, click and drag, and then go under Object, Transform, Reflect, and then we can reflect vertical, right? Or horizontal. Or vertical. Hit OK, and then maybe Let's move it over so it lines up. There we go. So try and get at that. Again, how did I flip it? It was object, arrange, or transform, reflect, and that's pretty good. Anything, it doesn't matter. As long as it lines up. How about we duplicate this and reflect it the other way? How about another way of reflecting? Is I'm going to select both of them. If you remember to select two things, and you got to practice this, I know it takes time, you can either draw a box over top of them like that, or you can hold the shift key down and click on both of them like that, right? Shift key, or draw a box over them like that. Either way. So, and instead of duplicating ahead of time, I'm going to let the program do it for me. Under the reflect option, there's a copy command under the reflect option. So if you go underneath object, again, transform, reflect, you'll notice there is a copy feature here. This time I'm going to do horizontal, and I'm going to say copy. Don't say okay, I'm going to say copy. And now I have another pattern. Look at that. Isn't that cool? Now we can color our boxes. Let's color them. You can click on them. Remember to change the color is this one right here. This one right here. Color. Color them. Color them. Color them. Boy, it looks like one of those high-tech company logos, doesn't it? And we made it in a few seconds. Again, all done with just a rectangle that's been sheared, flipped, and rotated. Okay, so now we need to learn to make it into a pattern. Any kind of pattern is fine. Remember to color them in. Okay, now wouldn't this be great if this was on my shirt? Who's in fashion design? Some of you are in fashion design, right? So we want to put this on my shirt. So let's make this into a pattern, and then we'll put it into a shirt. Now, of course, it has holes in it. It's not a perfect pattern. We'll learn a little bit how to make a perfect pattern, and when it repeats, it actually fills the whole area. So let's make it a little smaller. Remember to scale down. I'm going to select all and make it into a group. If you want, you hit Command A on the keyboard. Command A. Command A. Selects all. We notice how all the objects are selected. Now let's scale this, okay, in using the computer. Because, you know, one of the things you can do is I can come up here and I can say, okay, I can start scaling. See, scale, 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 scale. But that's imprecise, right? That's imprecise. I'm going to undo that for a moment. Let's say I want this to be 25% smaller. Right? I want this to be 25% smaller. Sitting there trying to calculate in my brain, I couldn't figure that out by just dragging. To make it 25% smaller, you remember there was a little scale tool that was over here. Remember it was above the shear. If you go and double click on that tool right there. Oh, nope. No, not there. Where do I want to do it? Oh, it's under Object, Arrange, Scale. I'm sorry, we're going to have to do it this way. Don't use the tool. Object, actually that did work if I double click on it, I think. No. Object, arrange, transform, scale. Now you can type it in. What did I say? 25%? There we go. 25% uniform. And scale corners and scale strokes. That's important because if you don't do that, the stroke will stay the same thickness and sometimes it gets really black around the outside. And hit OK. There we go. Now it's 25% smaller. I'm going to put it in the upper corner. There we go. So make it smaller. Again, it was under what? Object, transform, scale, and then you can do it universally, right? Okay, let's make some clothes. I know the pen tool is a great tool to draw your shirt. So let's draw a shirt, and we're going to put it in our shirt. So here we go. I'm going to draw a shirt with this tool right here. It's called the pen tool. I think we used this briefly last class, didn't we? I don't know if not. It's like connecting the dot. Here we go. I'm going to use the pen tool. Here we go. Pen tool. So using the pen tool, I'm going to click, 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 click. So oh, I guess I gotta go like that. Dress. A dress. I don't know. Here we go. Visually think of what a shirt would look like. I'm going to go click, click. If you want, you can make a curvy one right there if you want. Click, 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 click. There we go. Look at that. A fashion design teacher would be proud. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that pattern and put it in there and have it, pattern. When I say the word pattern, we're going to have the computer repeat it. It's going to repeat over and over again inside there. So go and click, 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 click. Let's see if you can make your shirt very nice, make it bigger. Make it nice and big, because think of the pattern's going to go inside there, so the shirt needs to be bigger. Think of the ratio between the size of the art and the size of the pattern and the size of the dress or shirt. It's going to repeat in the size that it is there, right?
Yeah.
So think about the ratio between the pattern and the shirt because it's going to repeat inside there. So that's why I made the shirt kind of big and I made the pattern small. That's why I shrunk it down, right? Okay, so let's put our pattern in our shirt. So make the shirt nice and big. You're in the layer. I'm going to make sure you get out of that. Okay, you guys ready to put the pattern in? First thing I want you to do is go out to the stairwell. Get rid of this thing and go underneath the view. Just connect the dots like you were a little kid. Pencil. Always go back to the beginning, right? Okay, to make this into a pattern, I'm going to use my direct selection tool and I'm going to select all my pattern here, this whole pattern thing right here, this whatever I made. And I'm going to tell it I want it to be a pattern. To tell it you want it to be a pattern, you go under Edit. Where's Pattern? Well, they moved it. It used to be under Edit. It's under Object. Pattern. Do you see pattern in there? Pattern, make. There we go. Thank you. So select the artwork first. Select the artwork first. Go under Object, Pattern, Make, and it's gonna come up with this window. Yes, I know. Whatever. And it's gonna start making a pattern on there for you. You can see what it looks like, right? It'll start showing you what it's gonna repeat. And I kind of leave it default right now. When you're all done, say done at the top. See where it says done? I say, well, where did it go? Well, it saved it in the swatches window. So how I put it in my shirt here is I'm going to click on my shirt, and I'm going to change the color real quick to something plain. There we go. So I click on my shirt, and if you do not see swatches, swatches is a pull-up menu. You go under Window, Swatches, Window, Swatches, and then in the swatches window you'll see there's all these little colors in there, but one of them has a little pattern. So I select my shirt, and it's kind of right here in the middle here. Boom, and you click. Oh, there it is. Look at that. I could see myself wearing that to a party. So you just click done, done, and then click on your shirt, and then swatches should be in the fun. There you go. Okay, so this is a very simple way, and there's a little bit more complex, but that is a fun pattern. You see your shirt? Very good. Very good. Okay, so that was a very simple example of a pattern. Let's make it a little bit more complex. Okay? More complex. Okay, everybody play Twister. We're going to use circles now. A little bit more. So let's make a new file. You might want to save this one to remind yourself. You might want to save, if you want to save your shirt, file, save as, save your shirt. Because you need to turn in some pattern for me, so you might want to save something as you're working there. I want you to practice, though. You should probably make more patterns. So let's make a new, I'm going to make a new file. I'm just going to make a new one. And let's start with circles. So I'm going to use circles, ellipses, and I'm going to draw an ellipse. So I'm going to draw an ellipse. And this time I'm going to turn off the stroke and turn on the fill. So if you remember, I don't want a black line around this. I just want just a plain color, right? If you've played Twister, you look at the dot on the mat. It's just a plain circle, no black line around it. So to turn the black line off, it's this one right here. See the no, no, no. Okay. Then I'm going to give it a fill. And I know last time I kind of said let's avoid the gradient. Remember that? I said, oh, the gradient's hard. Well, the gradient's hard, yes. Well, we're going to try it right now. So we're going to add some kind of gradient to the circle so it looks like it's glowing, and then we'll make it into a pattern. Okay, so let me make it bigger. We can always scale it down later. I'm going to make it just a little bit bigger so I can see my circle. So what I want is kind of like a ball, okay, like a sphere. To make it into a sphere, this circle, to make it look like a sphere or a ball, I'm going to give it a gradient. To give it a gradient, you'll notice in the toolbar there is at the very, so we turn this fill off, we turn the stroke off, turn the stroke off, but the fill is still on. We want to take the fill, and you'll notice right below there, there's a gradient. Looks like it's called gradient. It's right down there at the very bottom. If I click on that, it'll put a gradient, but that's ugly. But it does the default. The reason why I'm saying it's hard to do a gradient in this program is because of it just doesn't do it very easily. So you want to bring up a gradient pop-up window so that you can get it. Again, all I did was make a circle and click here to make a gradient, and I'm going to bring up the gradient pop-up window. It's this one right here. If you don't see gradient pop-up window pop up, you can go under Window, Gradient, and it will pop up. Okay, now this is the way to adjust your gradient. The first thing I want to adjust is how the gradient's done. I want to do it as a circle and not a linear. Linear means go from one side to the other, hence the word linear. If I go over here where it says linear, I'm going to choose radial. See, in the gradient, there we go. That looks like a better ball kind of shape, sphere, right? It's going to make a great shirt, little balls all over it. To change the colors, you have these little things down here. Now the problem is it defaults to black and white. There's no color in here. And so if I click on, see these little balls, you can see this goes from white to black, white to black. And if I try and change this color, if I double click on it, like you would try and, remember you double click down here to change your color. If you try and double click here, it brings up this and you see no color. I'm like, I have no color. That's what I'm saying, gradients are hard. Okay, you have to actually tell it that you want color. Actually, you can click on the swatches if you want, or you can come up here and say color. There's a little pop-up window in the upper corner here. You can say RGB, and it'll give you color. So again, it's kind of goofy the way it works here, if that's a word, goofy. And that, goofy's a word. Again, here's the gradient. It's in radial. It goes from black to white. There's a little square right here that changes the color. If I double click on there, I need to tell it I want color, or CMYK is fine, and then you can choose a color. Oh, that looks better. And then if you want to change this color, you can double click on it. Again, you might have to tell it to be in color or in color here. And then, oh, look at that. There. Oh, that's a beautiful color. Look at that. If you want, you can actually add more colors if you want. You can click underneath the bar here, and you can double click and even add another color. Ooh, how about that? Now we're getting into, anybody go to the Summer of Love exhibition? Nobody went to the summer exhibition in San Francisco. It's over. No, I took my mother, and she hated hippies, and she hated the exhibit. My mother is like right-wing conservative woman. She hated the Summer of Love exhibit. So see if you can make nice, try the gradient tool, see if you can change the color, and then we're going to make another pattern out of this. We're going to make another pattern out of this. Choose a color below.
I think you click on the second one. When you click on the second, it changes the color.
Yeah. Okay, so let's make this into a pattern. This might make a nice Summer of Love dress for my Summer of Love. Okay, they have a lot of dresses up there at the exhibit. So here we go. I'm going to, of course, do the same thing I did before. I'm going to repeat this. Repeat it. Maybe change the gradient. And I repeat it again. Change the gradient. Practice changing the gradient there. Then, of course, what makes a good pattern is not everything the same size. You can change the size of this. You can duplicate it, change the colors. If you're struggling with the cursor being all crazy on you and like shifting on you as you're working and stuff, it's a common problem in this room, I know. So I'm going to show you how to fix that. This one's too close. Let's get rid of that one. There we go. That looks pretty good. So as you're drawing, if the cursor starts going crazy on you and doing crazy things on you, you might need to turn off horizontal scrolling. So again, watch up here. If you are having problems with your cursor moving the window around and being crazy on you, to adjust that is under the apple in the upper corner there. See the little apple in the upper corner? Go to System Preferences. And in the mouse option right here, in the mouse option, turn off scrolling horizontal to off. And sometimes that I don't want it to scroll horizontal. I don't mind it scrolling vertical, but I don't want it. And sometimes that stops it from going crazy on you. I don't know. Some of you probably know what I mean when I say crazy. It's when you're moving the cursor, it kind of jumps. So when you're done making a whole bunch of different gradients, again, same thing. I'm going to shrink it down a little smaller. Shrink it down a little smaller. Think of it as a square like that. I'm going to shrink it down smaller, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. Let's make some clothes. Make some clothes. Again, I'm going to do another shirt, maybe a dress. And if you remember how to make your pattern, you select your objects, and it's under Object, Pattern, Make. You remember how to make your pattern under Object, Pattern, Make. And then, of course, it says, hey, you want to do that? You say yes. And then you can look at your pattern. If it's not right and you don't like these things touching, you can actually adjust some of the settings in here. You can shift things. Do you see that? Notice how I said brick by row, and notice how it kind of shifted. So try some of the different shifting options here, as well as a hexagon column. There's different ways of shifting. Ooh, that looks pretty cool. Actually, this one worked best. So there's different ways of shifting the pattern. You'll notice it will adjust the way that the pattern is made, as well as copies down here, and there's different options here. You can have things overlapping and so on. When you're done actually making the pattern, hit done. And then, of course, just like before, you can click on your clothes, and that was underneath swatches, if you remember, and you can put your pattern. There it is. Look at that. I could be at Summer of Love for sure on that one. So again, practice gradients.
How can you make like a curvy shape instead of the line? How can you make a curvy line instead of how can you make it curvy instead of just a line?
Oh, click and hold the mouse down to make curvy lines. You mean for the dress?
Yeah.
No, here, I can make one for you. To make it, I'm going to use this right here, the pen tool. If I click with the mouse. I'm going to click with the mouse. So I want to curve at the top of my shirt here. If I come over here and hold my mouse down, my left mouse, I can drag. Notice how it starts making a curvy line. So clicking and holding down will make curvy lines. And if I want a curvy line down here, I can click and hold the mouse. Look at that. Beautiful. Oh, I don't know about this. I guess I didn't need that point there, but whatever. My arm's a little messed up there. But click and hold the mouse down. Curvy lines. So patterns are very useful in Illustrator. It's a pattern making machine. It makes patterns very useful. If I said shrink it down for you. So see if you can make a pattern there. Very nice. How was yours? Okay, this time we're gonna use the basic shapes again. But the one I want you to use this time will be the polygon tool. Polygon tool. Polygon tool. I think we used the polygon tool to make a triangle last time, didn't we? Right? Something like that. So if you use a tool like the rectangle tool, the ellipse tool or something, you don't need to click and drag. If you just use the tool and go over to your screen and just click your mouse and let your finger up. Click the mouse, let your finger up. Whoosh. It comes up with options. Do you see that? So again, I did not click and drag with the tool. I just click once and let my finger up. It comes up with the polygon tool, and then you can say, well, how many sides do I want? Do you want an octagon? Pentagon would be 6, right? If you want a triangle, it was 3. I'm going to go all the way up to 8. I'm going to put 8 in there, an octagon, and I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to make it a little bigger. Okay, everybody got that? Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to split this object and blow it up and split it into multiple pieces. Okay, so you have things like a knife tool and you have a scissor tool. And those tools can be used to split an object up. So I have one already. I want to make a new kind of pattern. Maybe, what do we have? We have a, so, you know, mentally you just need to think a little bit about how you want to do it. This is 8 sides, right? Something like that, right? What if I wanted to make a shape like that and then I want to cut it like this and then cut it like that? Okay, and so this is a separate object now, this is a separate object, this is a separate object, this is a separate object. I can use a splitting tool if there's a tool, if there's a knife tool. So, just like you would take a piece of knife and go. But great for making a pattern, okay, as well. So I'm going to knife this. There is a knife tool, and the knife tool is located under one of these tools. It's right here. No, that's slice tool. That's not it. Don't do that one. Don't even go there. Where's my knife tool? Oh, it's under here. There it is. Scissor tool. I want to use the scissor tool. So what's the difference between the scissor tool? Makes a straight line. With a knife, you can do curvy lines. So let's just watch for a minute. Don't do this. Just watch. I'll show you the difference. The knife tool is good, but the problem with the knife tool is that see how it's kind of curvy, and now it's split it like that. It actually did. You don't notice it, but if I came over here and click on this side, it's different than this side now. Do you see that? The problem is the knife tool is not straight. You see, it was kind of curvy. Whereas if I use the scissor tool, now be careful, the scissor tool only works on points. So if I wanted to do what I drew on the board, I would use the scissor tool. I would click on this point here, and then I would click on this point down here. And it split it, but it didn't put a line. But it did split it. If you look at it, this is separate. Do you see that? It did cut it, but it didn't put a line in there. And then again, if I want to split, I can't really split the other way, can I? No, because they're separate objects now. That's not going to work. Not the way I want. Okay, let's not cross paths. How about this way? How about if I use the scissor tool and I click from here to here, and now that, no, I'm getting all messed up here. Let me go undo. I'm going to undo a couple times here. There we go. Let me start again. Select my object, scissor tool. How about if I cut from here to here? Now this is one object, and then I select this object and then cut from here to here. And now this is a separate object. Oh no. Oh, it separated these, didn't it? Whatever. I'm going to color this and color it up. There we go. I don't know. See if you can cut an object. I was trying to make a pattern. It just wasn't working for me.
For the polygon tool, how do you change the number of lines?
If you're using the polygon tool, you click on the screen, let your finger up, and then you can type in a number of sides you want. So let me put this together. There we go. And I'll make a pattern out of this. Let me turn the stroke off. Let me rotate this. And let me duplicate this. I don't know. The knife tool didn't work the way I wanted it. It's okay. Okay, let's talk about repeating patterns. So make anything you want, any kind of object like that. What I was going to demonstrate next is how to do a repeating pattern. So if you look at the way this is right now, if I was going to repeat this, you would have kind of a gap here and here, right? A gap here and here. So how can I avoid these gaps like this? Well, one way to do that would be to, and I'm going to use a different color here. Let me go with my light blue. I'm going to go and make a rectangle that goes from here to here. And I'm going to send that to the back. Remember how to rearrange objects inside of Illustrator is under Object Arrange. We can send to back. There we go. And then maybe I make another one. Let me do a different color. What do we got? Blue. How about we do a light green? And I draw from here to here. And Object Arrange, send it back. There we go. And then I do the light green again. Oops, that didn't work. One more time. Object deranged, send to back. There we go. Okay, so I made a pattern like this, and how I made that was, this is just a rectangle that's behind this, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 shapes that are just arranged in a certain way. But you got to think in your brain, how would it tile? The word tile, like the floor, right? You look at your floor, it's a tile floor, right? You look at wallpaper on the wall. Well, I guess nobody uses wallpaper anymore, but if you remember back to the 70s, some people still use wallpaper. Okay. How would I take this and it's going to duplicate it, right? So this would be a pattern that could duplicate easily because I made it in a box, right? Everything's a box. So if I highlight this, let me shrink it down again. And let's say I'm making wallpaper, right? This is going to be a psychedelic room for my psychedelic clothes for my summer of love, right? So here's my psychedelic room. Here's my room. Here's my room. So here's my wall pattern. Nah, that's not going to work. How about we make clothes again? Clothes will work. Here we go. Okay, so again, the square pattern like this, if you go and make it into a pattern, you'll see it totally blends seamlessly, right? Then you can say done, and I can click on my clothes and put it in there. Look at that. So again, this one, if you look at the way when you're building a pattern, if you think about it being square, right? It's a square pattern. How will it tile? If it takes this and duplicates it over here, how is that gonna, is it gonna seamlessly blend together, right? Does it seamlessly blend? Well, you had green on this side and we had green on this side, and when they go together, it makes a triangle, right? Same with as you go down. As I tile down, how will that tile? Oh, now I have a triangle here. And so thinking about how things are tiled together, you should think about that. I know we just did circles and we just did triangles before, but now a little bit more complex shape.